Morning, everybody, and thank you for taking the time to join us during our Ergoline Experience event. My name is Philip Lemons, and I am the Service Director at JK Products and Services. Joining me to my right is Henry Mitchell. He's one of our certified support technicians, as well as our on-site service manager. I'd like to first start off by briefly going over our extended service hours of operation. We can be reached Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Central until 7 p.m. Central, as well as on Saturday from 9 a.m. Central until 1 p.m. Central. We can also be reached by email at gsd_support@jkamerica.com. Now a little bit more about our team. We have 4 strategically placed regional managers, myself included, based out of Jonesboro, Arkansas. I have 19 years of industry experience. Out of the West Coast, we have Jorgen Larson, based out of San Francisco, California, with over 25 years of industry experience. We have Jeremy Welsh, based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, with 20 years of industry experience. And last but not least, we have Corey Carpenter, based out of Indianapolis, Indiana, with 19 years of industry experience. We are pleased to announce a new online training and certification program, and I will now let Henry take over the stage for this exciting new program.
In our online training program, with all the changes that have been going on with COVID and the different structures that everyone is getting used to in media performances, we've gone to an online training program. The training program includes an introductory class, level 1, level 2, and level 3. Our introductory class is recommended for salon staff, owners, operators, and technicians. What we learn in this class is the fundamentals of cleaning and operational maintenance of your tanning equipment. In the level 1 class, we recommend for salon managers, owners, operators, and technicians. What we learn in these classes are timers, network troubleshooting, what error codes are telling us on the tanning beds, how to do lamp replacements, and testing and reading some of the diagrams concerning wiring and how to understand the manuals. In the level 2 class, it's recommended for operators and technicians. In this class, we actually learn the specifics of reading and understanding the wiring diagrams, how to test certain components in the bed by reading the wiring diagrams, and learn about the different circuit boards in electronics 2, electronics 3, and electronics 4. We also learn what the lights on the boards are telling us so that we're able to interpret what certain problems may be and if they're coming from a board. And in the level 3 training, it's recommended for operators and technicians that specializes training and focuses on using JK proprietary software package, Service PC1 and Service PC2. We learn how to load the software onto our computers. We learn how to operate the Service PC programs and what each of the screens can do for us as technicians and how to interpret that information. Now, there is prerequisites for these classes, plus 6 months of experience in the field before we can actually take advantage of the level 3 training. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Philip for a nice introductory offer for the training.
Thank you, Henry. For those of you in attendance, we are offering a limited time introductory price of $99, which does include all 4 classes. That is intro all the way up to level 3. As Henry previously mentioned, keep in mind, it does come with a little bit of prerequisites that have to be met, but keep in mind, this does include all 4 levels. For those of you who are wishing to continue on with training, those, how do I say this, have been trained in the past by our office, you can continue on with your training for $29 per class. So next question is, how do you sign up? You can check us out at www.jkproducts.us, and there you will see a tab labeled service. Click on that service tab, and once the next page loads, you will see a self-registration page. fill it out, and your info will be sent over to myself and my team, and we will be in touch.
Okay, so now that we've got that, let's learn a little bit more about the best practices for your tanning units. Maintenance of your equipment during the season is extremely important because a well-maintained machine has fewer problems. One of the things that I stress a lot in the training classes is when doing maintenance, you always want to turn the what we call F1 or the main breaker inside the bed off before we turn the panel breaker off. And in reverse process, when turning it back on, always turn your main breaker on before you turn your internal breaker on. This keeps electrical surges from getting to the circuit boards inside the tanning beds. Next is cleaning. Filters. Each bed has filters. Some may be a foam filter, some may be an aluminum filter, and these filters should be cleaned on a regular basis. One of the methods that I recommend is a monthly cleaning, where you go and clean all the filters on a monthly basis. The units also have an hour counter built into them, and that hour counter is set at 50 hours and it's a countdown. So you can also keep up with your need to clean filters by watching those hour counters. The next is the base tank of the bed. That's the base of the bed where the lamps are in the bottom. That needs to be cleaned out with air on a regular basis. And we've also found that using a leftover dryer sheet from where you've washed your towels and used the anti-static sheets in your dryer, if you save those used ones, you can wipe down the tanning lamp with that dryer sheet that's been used before, and it takes the static off of the lamp and picks up dust and other debris that may be stuck to the lamp. The next is under the mat. If you have a stand-up unit, it has a floor mat. One of the things that we hear a lot in tech support is, I'm starting to see what looks like rust on the floor. Those floor mats need to be picked up and cleaned underneath on a regular basis, because if they're getting overspray from the acrylic cleaner, it tends to gather underneath the floor mat and cause future problems. Keep that underneath the mat clean and dry, and it'll save future problems. Next is your AC unit. If the tanning unit has an AC unit in it, it also has filters that need to be cleaned on a regular basis. Make sure that you keep the filters on the AC unit clean. When you have the filters off, if you have the opportunity, look in the little vent slats to inspect the fan that's inside the AC unit to make sure the fan's not getting a buildup where it might need some future maintenance from somebody more than a salon operator. The next is your fans. While inspecting the fan on the AC unit, you also have the main fan in the back of the unit, and you have your body cooling fans that could be at the head or the foot of the bed or on the back wall of the bed toward the head end. You want to make sure those fans are moving freely. You want to make sure those fans are free of debris. I've actually seen where debris's gotten sucked into the front of the bed and gotten stuck in those fans, making them have noises, making them not have airflow. And it was an easy fix by just removing the debris. Acrylics and glass. If you're doing a deep clean, you want to be sure to remove the acrylics and clean both sides of the acrylic. Be careful not to smudge the acrylics when you're putting them back in. A lot of times, a lot of people like to use a white cotton glove on their hands to keep from putting fingerprints on the acrylics while they're putting them back in the bed. We got plastics. Outside of the bed has plastic parts. Use a damp cloth, not a drenched cloth, but a damp cloth, and clean your plastic. That keeps other people from saying, ooh, and it also makes the bed look nice and clean, and a clean bed is easier to maintain. The next is your PCB boards that are inside the component box. You want to use air to clean circuit boards. Try to refrain from vacuuming. Vacuuming creates static electricity. And you go in there and you think you have it nice and clean, and then you reach in and the static discharge comes from your hand, it zaps the circuit board, and it could be a very costly mistake. So use air to blow the dust out of the unit, and then after the dust is out into the room, you can go ahead and vacuum the room to clean that up. Talk about network connections. Your tanning bed usually either wired or wireless to other period to remove these connections. Make sure that the dust is blown off the connections and where it's being connected to. Plug it back in, make sure your connections are secure. Things to inspect. You want to inspect your network cables to make sure that they're not around electrical cords that might be behind the bed. That picks up interference and causes network problems. You want to make sure they're not on the floor where they can get stuck underneath the corners of the bed. If that happens and the bed gets scooted, a lot of times it will slice or smash your network cable and cause network issues. Screws in the tanning beds. You want to inspect the tightness of screws on a regular basis. When removing screws, use an Ergoline tool. When putting screws back in, always start the screws with your fingers so that they don't get cross-threaded. Nothing worse than a cross-threaded screw and then have to have another technician come out and cut out the parts and put new parts into your tanning bed because the screw got cross-threaded when putting an acrylic back in. The next is lamp holders. When you're changing lamps, inspect your lamp holders. Make sure you're not seeing any cracking, any arcing in the lamp holder. And if you think there might be a problem, turn the center of the lamp holder and look at the copper tips that the bipins touch and make sure that they are nice and copper instead of turning brown. And next is your electrical connections. One of the things that I advise when I'm doing my training classes, that once a year you go in, you turn off the main breaker, you turn off your external breaker, you give the bed about 5 minutes so that all the components can drain their electrical components so that you don't get that little byproduct shock, and go in with a screwdriver. And everywhere you see a screw that has a wire attached to it, you try to tighten it. Just the slightest little turn of a screwdriver on a screw can save you hundreds of dollars later, where a wire came loose and started arcing and you ended up replacing wires and connectors and other components. And of course, you can always reach technical support at 800-445-0624 or via email at gsd_support@jkamerica.com. Philip?
We would like to thank you for taking the time to listen to our exciting new training program, as well as Henry's best practices. We will now take the time to go over a couple questions. Couple questions that's been handed to us from Ms. Kayla. Is there a way to get maintenance schedules for various types of bed, Henry?
In the manual that comes for the bed, and if you don't have a manual, you can email and request one. There is a maintenance schedule in the manual that tells you at what period of time, hours or years or however it's put together, that you should be either inspecting, repairing, or replacing different components in the bed.
Ms. Kayla, hope that helps. If not, you can reach out to us and we'll Be glad to help you. In the chat board, there was a question that was being asked just to see what everybody's answers were. It was a thermostat question. So, Mr. Henry.
Oh, I like to keep my salon comfortable, but not cold. I believe one of the answers was 68 to 72 degrees. That is one of the best temperatures to keep your salon. I've seen many issues over the years where the salon was turned up to a warmer temperature, but in turn, with the beds creating a lot of heat and they're bringing in warm air instead of cool air, it causes more issues with the maintenance of the beds. Philip?
Do we have any more questions? Okay. Essentially, that looks like all the time we have today. For those of you who still have unanswered questions, we will be in touch to answer those questions. Once again, we thank you for taking the time to join us today, and we hope you enjoy the show.